You're listening to Connection Lost, attempting to podcast with BarrowsBOY and Iamkeeferz.
It's week 3 of Connection Lost, 3 weeks strong. It was a little rough getting this one up. It took us a while. Some snafus here and there.
What a great week.
Yeah, man. But it's been an exciting week. I don't know about you. It's been a good week.
I have other words for it than exciting.
Well, I've had a good week. I got my core pet. That was cool. And all my friends are mad at me, so that's awesome. But this week, I forgot. Oh man. This week on the podcast, folks, you want a little rundown before we start. This week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the recent poll, going into details about the Max Cape. We'll be talking a little bit more about the upcoming month of Slayer updates. And of course, we will be getting to your questions and maybe even talking about D&D. But yeah, Keith, talk about what you did this week in the world of gaming.
Or lack of gaming, I guess would be a more appropriate answer. It's been hell. It's been absolute hell. I've been pulling my hair out for the past probably about 5 days total now. Just computer issues constantly. It's been one thing after another. At first, it was just the operating system was kind of buggy, just kind of bogged down, running real slow. Went to my brother's, picked up a disk for Windows 7, reformatted it, and it got worse. It was not only buggy and boggy, but every time I rebooted the computer, it made me restore point, and I lost everything every time I turned my computer off. And I've just been fighting it until yesterday. I finally was like, I'm gonna end this. I went and picked up a 1 terabyte SSD at the Evo 850.
You went that hard? Good.
Yeah, I went.
The
big.
dream.
It is nice. That wasn't even the fix though. I ended up having shout out to OS buddy Matt and OS buddy NoFX. Those guys spent hours with me yesterday in Mumble, getting me all the help I needed. They ended up getting me an actual legit download of Windows 7 and a legit key, and got me all back up. And then I upgraded to Windows 10, and we've been playing around with that now.
Hey Cortana.
Hey Cortana. Yeah, it'll do some pretty funny things. So that's pretty much how my week has gone. I just getting back into skate now. I'm going to start working on the Barrows series. I think you'll.
Yeah, your fault. You know, honestly, the thing with Barrows, I'm not so much interested in doing it anymore, but I still think Barrows is like one of the best pieces of streaming content. It does a lot of things right. I don't know if you're doing Elite Clues.
Oh yeah, I'll be doing them.
Yeah, so like you got the whole clue thing going. You got this like, every once in a while there's a chance for big loot. It's this nice chill PVM that very easy to read chat along with it. It just works out really well for streaming.
Yeah, so. It's nice. The only problem I have with Barrows is that I get very stale with it after usually a week or so.
A couple thousand chests or so that can happen.
Give or take. So we'll see how long it lasts. But it is a series in progress that I've been working on for many months. So
yeah, and I'm curious to see how long it takes you to get every single item, because I did that whole thing.
Yeah, and I actually have a straw poll that people can vote on to guess how many chests it's going to take. And currently, the highest vote is that they think it's going to take over 2,000 chests to get all items.
Y'all crazy.
Which is possible.
Like, yeah, totally. I mean, it can happen.
6 brothers the entire way, too. So, we'll see.
Yeah, you usually end up waiting on, from my experience in watching like Iron Man and guys like that, you usually end up waiting for that like one last item. And mine was funny because it was Torag hammers, so I was like, I don't really want them, so
but I need them
whatever. So that was cool. But yeah, this week I have been doing a lot of Corp again. Edan got unbanned. Those of you who've been following the Edan saga, he got false banned that day that Bino hit the button thing, and it's been like 3 weeks of trying to talk to Jagex, being like, you fucked up, and we kind of gave up hope, and then the last second, Gunner, who those of you who hang out in my stream know pretty well, he's got a pretty good relationship with Weth. He kind of talks to him quite a lot. He reports bots all the time. So he DMs Weth and says, hey Weth, you should look into this after Weth gets back from vacation, and Edan gets unbanned. And so we're very happy, so we get to go to Corp again. And of course,
why does it take this long to fix? Like, they knew they fucked up, right? So they had no way to track back who they banned at that point?
So what happened was, Bino hits this button, this oops, I banned a bunch of people button, that morning. So he gets banned the same morning, timestamp and everything is that morning. So we're like, okay, so you'll be fine, you'll get unbanned. Fast forward to that night, they say, everything's right, we've unbanned everyone relevant. So he got, like, theoretically, he got false banned the same day a bunch of other people got false banned, and so it was confusing. I don't know. It's customer support at Jagex is obviously not the best thing. We've known that for a while. The worst part of, I think, all of it was like for me talking to other people and just being mad about it. It's not even my account, but when you play with someone, for fucking 3-4 years on RS, you kind of get used to having them around, and it's a good time. So I was like, we got to get him unbanned, stuff like this. And you get all the usual people who are like, are you sure he wasn't macroing? Like, yes, motherfucker. and then there's always that like little seed of doubt those people get in your brain that like maybe your friend is lying to you, maybe they were botting. Like, no, stop it. So yeah, ironically enough, or I guess strangely enough, Jagex gave him 2 weeks of membership for 3 weeks of being banned. So there's that.
It's surprising the fact that they gave him anything, just because they've been pretty adamant about even if it's our fault, like too fucking bad.
Right.
So
it was like, yeah, here's some membership for the time you lost, but not enough to make up for the time you were actually false banned.
I actually got muted one time through like a glitch in the game.
Mm-hmm.
There was a word you could say. It wasn't like RS Malls or anything like that, but there was a set
RS
thing
Malls
you could say where people were getting muted for 2 days. And I thought it was a player mod that just had like a grudge against me or something. So I emailed them like, can you check into this, because I haven't done anything. And they ended up looking into it, and they're like, oh yeah, this was a glitch on our end. We're aware of it. We fixed it. Here's some spins. They sent me like 20 spins.
Oh, Jagex, why?
Like,
why?
Just fixing the problem would have been enough, but they actually gave me. I saved the email from a long time ago. It's just comical.
That's so sad. It's just so sad. Anyway, I mean, but it's a problem. They got to get their shit together, because obviously, it's a consistent issue. We keep having this problem, Jagex, and so figure your shit out. Hopefully, at some point. It's nice that everything worked out in this case, but obviously, it doesn't always break down to where your friend gets unbanned or you get unbanned. So. We're lucky we had an in, and that's kind of what it took. It just took someone knowing and having a decent relationship with the guy.
That's kind of what it takes now in general. To get things done, is you have to either be like popular within the community or know someone that is higher up to get like a fast answer.
Yeah, and so get on your ass kissing, folks, because it could save your RuneScape account. All jokes aside, it's nice to have him back doing corp a lot. Been working towards the music cape. I'm trying to get the champion scroll. I don't know. Do you have any interest in getting the music cape?
Nah.
No? So that's just me. I just need a champion scroll for it. There's like one track that I can't get for that. So I've been every now and then just zipping down into certain places and killing goblins, and that's a lot of fun. So that's just real great running around. I'm surprised how click intensive it is. You leave your cannon set up in the middle of, it's that little cave next to the fishing guild, and you leave your cannon set up in like the central area, and then you just zip around with your blowpipe, just one hitting goblins, and it's actually constant action. It's kind of awful. But it's a 1 in 5k drop, so if I'm as lucky as I got with the Corpet, I should get it any time now. Probably not. Anyway, this week, Jagex has released another content poll, which of course we love the way Jagex does polls here on Connection Lost. We've made that pretty clear. However, I'm still hopeful. I'm the optimist. Keith is he's just going to abstain, and Tinfoil had it up. I
did not vote this week.
I'm gonna keep trying.
There's too many things on that poll that I don't know about or don't care about, and we beat this to a pulp. But I refuse.
No, it's worth mentioning again, because let's be real. It's arguably the most important thing that happens on a regular basis to the game, and it's broken as hell. So worth mentioning. There are a couple questions in this poll that certainly for me I was kind of took a look at, and I was like, well, I don't really know what this would do. I don't really care either way, personally, so what do I do? So you got to pick one. Unfortunately, that usually ends up in the no column, because it's better off to not put something strange in the game than to put it in the game, so rip, I guess. But this week we're polling the max cape. We are polling a bunch of other things. The max cape is the one of the things that's getting a lot of talk. Mainly whether you can get stats added to it. That's kind of the big debate. Problem is, anyone who wants the max cape personally, it's just over 100 players, so they don't have much traction. There's a lot of people who are like, I'd just rather it have skill cape stats, and that's pretty fair. I understand that, but from my point of view, I feel like you ought to be able to just throw a cape into your max cape and have it copy the stats, and that would be a permanent thing. So you could have like an accumulator max cape, a fire cape max cape, you know, all that. I'm totally fine with like what would theoretically be a cosmetic override. I don't know how you feel about that, Keith, but
I think when we were talking about this last week with the capes, like one of the things we all kind of agreed on was that it's to show off an achievement,
right,
and not to be something functional as a comparative item. So me personally, I don't care because I'll never get a max cape, so it doesn't really affect me. But I think with staying true to what we were saying before, it's smart to keep it that, you know, it's an achievement to show off.
Yep.
It's not supposed to be a fire cape. It's not supposed to be relative to you know, other things. You're not going to use it where you would normally use a fire cape. It is to show off an achievement. And to keep it at that makes sense, but I can see why the 100 people that have spent the time, got all their stats up, would like to be able to use it in a situation where they would want to use their fire cape as well. Like, they won't be able to show it off in a lot of the things they do in combat because they don't have the ability to use it effectively. So I get it from both sides, but again, I don't care because I'll never get it. So
yeah, no, I mean, couldn't agree more. It just makes sense that way. You know, it's one of those things that I feel like you deserve to show it off, but do you really need it to be a fire cape? Do you really need to be? It's one of those things that, again, it's kind of like, how fair do you want to be to these people? Obviously, I think everyone is in the same camp of it shouldn't have better stats than any best in slot item. I think that's pretty clear.
There's no reason to force people to do all that to get the best thing, but I can see why they would want it to be on par with a very functional cape.
Yeah.
Why they wouldn't give the ability to attach a fire cape to it to give it the stats doesn't make a lot of sense to me, just because that would force you to have to get fire cape, and since you proved it, like it's on par, which makes sense.
Yeah, so obviously that's where we're at on that. Pretty simple. It is nice to see the community kind of together on that one. You don't often see the whole RuneScape community we're all kind of in the same headspace on that one, so that's a benefit. One thing we're not all in the same headspace on, and it's very disappointing in this poll as well, is the option to convert Zulrah's items into scales. That would be the Zulrah specific items, the Magic Fang, the Tanzanite Fang, and the Serpentine Helm. They've all been given, at least in this poll question, equivalent values in scales, that if you got the drop, you could break the item down into scales. And basically, that would help scales crash. It would obviously bring up the price of those items because they're practically at alch value. We're basically approaching alch value at this point. And it would just be great, but it's a shame that I think a lot of people misunderstand how that update is going to hit, and so they're voting no, and it's very sad.
You know, there's one thing I thought about when I was reading on that would have made it a lot more interesting of an update to me, is if they had just given the option, instead of, you know, having a flat 50,000 for this, 10,000, have it like an RNG type breakdown, where,
interesting.
Like, say you get the Serpentine Visage, and normally they're saying it'll give you what, 10,000. Have anywhere between 5 and 20,000. Or 5 and 10 or something like that, to where if you don't know what it's going to give, so that keeps the prices a little less consistent, and they won't be like, oh, there's a cap, because you might not get a lot, or you might get a lot for it, you know, and it keeps it a little more fun with the breakdown and a little more.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of would
have been an interesting idea, but yeah, I think one of the big problems people have with it is they see 50,000 scales for a Tanzanite Fang is whatever the Tanzanite Fang is, divide that by 50,000. They think that's going to be what the scales are worth, like right there. But that's more of a cap than anything. They may be less than that, but they'll never go above that, because then you would just be breaking down Tanzanite Fangs to make money. So
yeah,
I don't like that the scales do have a cap based on one other item, but that item has the ability to fluctuate. So the Tanzanite Fang, in theory, could go up to 50 mil because everyone's breaking them down. There's not a lot in the game.
Right.
Which will also fluctuate the prices of scales. So it's got a lot of room to bounce around. But
yeah, I mean, theoretically, we would see scale prices go down, which we need them to a little bit. At this point, what's happening is we're getting, you know, as I said before, the items are, you know, depending on their demand, of course, but they're just getting lower and lower because enough people have them. There's not many people left who still need these items, and those of us who have them are using them because they are best in slot items, are using them regularly. and those scales are just getting eaten up and eaten up, and as the more items come in the game, more people need to use scales, and scales just keep going. Scales haven't stopped. It's kind of nuts. I mean, I thought they would stop. I sold off 400,000 during the mutagen update, thinking hordes of people would go to Zulrah and the scales would finally, but nope. Here we are, 60 GP later. They're still going up, so they're 170 each. Who knows where they'll be in a week's time? But
are they still 170? Because I know when
they could be even higher. I don't know.
Announced, they actually went down quite a bit.
Right when this update was, or at least when the question, we didn't even need the update. When the question was announced, the day of that, Serp Helms I think got up to somewhere around like 1.2 maybe, and maybe not that high, like 708, maybe close to a mil. Stuff skyrocketed because obviously this question was theoretically setting all these items with default values. So certainly scales probably fell a little bit. I don't really know.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it right now. They went from 177 to basically 154 within 2 days, and now they're starting to climb slightly back up. I think in fear that the poll is going to fail.
Yeah, and it's not looking good. I think the poll's at 72 or so %, but we're pretty far into the poll unless some big name YouTuber decides to brainwash their view base and just go vote. Chances are we're not getting it. So it is a shame. I mean, we're keeping it the way it is, but I've kind of been beating the dead horse about it. It would be a good thing. You incentivize getting those big drops from Zulrah. That would, you'd skew the money making towards those rare drops, which is, mostly how high level PVM works in RS. You make the money a little less consistent. It makes Zulrah just a little bit less attractive, and therefore at least some people might stop bitching that it's overpowered. But who knows? Obviously, it doesn't look like we're going to get it. One of those things that I'd really love to see Jagex kind of put on the chopping block a little bit, figure out why people voted no, and maybe switch it up a little bit and throw it back at us. But
yeah, and they could do that with maybe the random breakdown instead of giving it a core, conversion. Maybe give it some kind of a random between this and this, and might make people a little more interested in the update. I think would be a second alternative option to go to.
Yeah. So again, educate your voters. We might be in a better place. I think it's an assumption of mine, but I do think most of the reason this poll is failing is because people go, "Whoa, you're making these items worth more," and they don't understand that scales would fall. So
yeah, and scales are, if you've ever done Zulrah, scales are a huge part of the money you make from that. It's actually the top money from Zulrah as a whole. So in theory, depending on how much the core items go up, you could end up making less from Zulrah because of this update.
Yeah,
depending on how high those items go.
Not likely, but certainly
it's
would have been
possible.
Nice. Certainly would have been nice. I don't think many people would have complained. Let's put it that way. If Zulrah suddenly GP per hour went down, I don't think many people would have cried about it. Moving on, we're getting some potential new Barrows features. Obviously, I'd love to talk about Barrows, and obviously Keith is restarting his series off at Barrows. Three little things we're getting back at Barrows. We're getting a loot broadcast, potential loot broadcast, and last I checked, most of these questions are passing, so it's looking pretty good. But we're getting a loot broadcast, so if someone gets something interesting in the chest room while you're there, you'll be able to see it. Kind of cool. We're gonna get an OS Buddy style listing of if you killed a brother. It'll pop up on your screen somewhere, probably in the old style listing that ended up updating into pre-EOC quite a while ago. So that's pretty easy, pretty simple. And lastly, of course, we're getting a loot chest. So much like RS3 looting, when it comes to stuff like Araxor, Rise of the Six, things like that, you'll click something, it'll bring up a looting, a looting interface, and you'll be able to see exactly what you're getting from every chest, which is definitely my favorite out of all of those.
Now, I'm assuming that will break you from combat, so you're not just going to be getting pounded and the stuff falling on you and breaking you out of the interface.
People have expressed concern, so I imagine Jagex has heard that, and it will pause any sort of, at least make you immune from combat while that window's open.
Yeah, I mean, it's
theoretically stop any health regen.
Without that, it would be pointless, because if you've ever done Barrows, you almost always get hit.
Loot, pow, skeleton.
Yeah, exactly.
So hopefully that's a thing. I don't know about the falling rocks. You probably have enough time to get that done. So who knows? I would imagine it would make you immune from combat. But I like it. I like all three of those updates. I think that's a nice little quality of life touch to Barrows.
Yeah, especially the loot broadcast. I don't know how many times people are like, I just got a Guthan spear, and I'm sitting there wondering, like, I wonder if he already had that spear.
Did he really, though?
Or if he actually got it.
Yeah, both of those, the loot interface as well as the broadcast, both kind of like take away that mystery from people where it's like, did you really do that though? Like, you could have just. There's always been, you see someone take a screenshot of what is like their loot that they got at Barrows. It's usually just an inventory of things. Technically, the only way to really tell if someone got it is if you can see it on the ground, all repaired, because there's no way for a player to drop like a fully charged Barrows item.
Yeah.
So there's no real like proof that you can give. Theoretically, this would do that. So I like it.
Yeah, and it's not economy breaking. This is a nice quality update, which is, I think they've pushed so many things that affect the economy, and in these big massive updates, it's nice to see content that is definitely farmed quite heavily. If you've ever been to Barrows, there's a lot of players that still do Barrows, getting small little quality things that will make it more enjoyable for everyone involved. So, and hopefully won't take too much time and dev time and work on their end as well. So.
Yeah, should be fun. There's a lot more in that poll. We can get to if we want, but let's talk a little bit about all this stuff coming in August. We're finally getting all those Slayer updates. Who knows what we're getting this Thursday?
I was so disappointed because Mod Archie posts before the Q&A. Post your questions on my Twitter. So I rarely do because I don't usually get to watch the Q&As.
Right.
But I had a question for the Q&A and I was like, hopefully they actually get to it. And I asked him, can you go into any detail about what batch will come in what order? What updates are we going to get throughout the month? And they just ignored it completely.
Yeah.
I went back, watched the entire Q&A, didn't say anything about it. I was like, oh, come on. Give us some idea of what we're looking forward to here. Is it going to be the bosses first and then the Slayer task revamp? Urbag coming out with this month's update, I assume? I haven't heard much talk about that in a while.
I don't know.
So.
I don't know. It passed, so maybe you're right. I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't really know. But Mod Maz gave us those of you watching the live version. Obviously, those of you watching the recorded versions, link in the description to this Twitter teaser pic. As always, follow your JMods on Twitter. You can get exclusive access to teaser pictures. This one being quite literally a tease. We can see kind of the outline of the Jad pet.
A third on. For those of you looking at the picture, to the right of his character, you see the big Tsar guy, and then just to the right of his head, you can almost see
little itty bitty Jad.
Yeah, what looks like a very tiny Jad.
But I'm excited. I want to be that guy who goes for the Jad pet, but I also I've gone through in my head. I've thought, okay, John C. You're trying to design the rarity of the Jad pet, and every time the pets have come out, I've gone through and kind of, what would I do kind of thing. So I look at the Jad pet and I go, okay, what would be reasonable? Knowing the mechanics for those of you who don't know, you get a fire cape. As soon as you leave the cave, upon leaving the cave, you get a chance at a Jad pet. Boom, right there. No pet then, you have the opportunity to later, presumably, I don't know if you have to at the very moment. I'm hoping you can stock fire capes away and then come trade them in later. But you can trade in your fire cape for another chance. So theoretically, every single fight cave attempt you do and every victory, you have up to 2 chances at this pet. Knowing that and knowing how long it takes to kill Jad, thinking, where does that drop chance leave us? And what I'm hoping it's going to be is something like 1 in 500. And that's after me going, okay, I think 1 in 250 would be reasonable. But let's be real, Jagex is probably going to put it at 1 in 500.
I'm gonna disagree. I really
think
it should be high. I think it should be higher. I think that these numbers are too easy. It's not long-term goals for a lot of players, and a lot of the pets, are too easy to get, in my opinion. And I just would like to see it at 1 in 1K. Or 1 in 2K or something. Give it.
So that's exactly 1 in 500. Where's I end up?
I want to see.
John C's probably going to go higher.
Not many people have it yet. It's going to be farmed in a week, and there's going to be tons of players with it, and it's just going to be another pet in their collection of pets in their bank. Yeah. After a while, which is.
Yeah, but I would, it's one of those things you think it's so hard to put realistically into perspective for a single player. And granted, that's not what Jagex has to worry about. They have to worry about just making sure that it's still an achievement, but. If you look at I got to do 500 fire capes, trading them all in, and that would be me breaking even with the drop chance. I mean, that's crazy, but on a grand scale, everyone gets a fire cape at least once. We got hundreds of thousands of players. It's not that nuts. So unfortunate for the single player who, like myself, might want to grind the shit out of it, but certainly reasonable on Jagex's end, and you can't really fault him for it. I'd rather it be rarer than common. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but they haven't been good about that. Like they've really given things pretty simple drop rates, and it's
like what?
A matter of time before people get them, and that's with average luck. The guys like Mr. Ice Bunny, they get the court pet on 69 kills. Is insanely good luck, and now the game's just flooded. I don't know how many.
Well, I mean, it is it's 1 in 5K.
Yeah, that one's good. That one is an excellent drop rate. Like they did that one right, but then they give things like the Chaos Fanatic has a 1 in 1K.
Well, okay, so I will defend the Chaos Fanatic. The Chaos Fanatic 1 in 1K drop rate I think is perfectly fine. It's a long kill, to be perfectly fair. The Chaos Ellie being 1 in 300 is definitely way too common. That being said, it's still a relatively difficult solo boss fight. Granted, you can flinch it, but again, it's a pretty long kill. But in scale to all the other pets, it's certainly really, really common. But that was their first pet. It was their first go at it. I think they did a much better job with, say, the God Wars pets and everything afterwards. But we can talk about John C's drop tables for hours because obviously, as far as we know, he's the one who does all the drop tables, and he is therefore theoretically every time you complain about Zulrah's drop table, like Black D-Hide not being there after a while, you can complain to John C.
Not that he gives a shit.
Not that
enough people have complained about John C.
Have I ranted yet about Black D-Hide on the podcast? Do I still have that? Do I have that chip still going? Have I talked to you about this?
I don't believe we've.
What's
wrong with Black D-Hide?
Fantastic.
What is?
So Zulrah comes out. Black D-Hide, I think it was. I don't remember the number. Black D-Hide was on Zulrah's drop table.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was probably like, I want to say 50, maybe. I don't think it was that many. Maybe 25 Black D-Hides. So it was a pretty decent drop. And, of course, when Zulrah first came out, everybody was complaining, blah, blah, blah. Everyone was complaining about this, complaining about that. And then there was the people who were like, Zulrah's not a black dragon. Why did he drop Black D-Hide? Zulrah's not a pure essence rock. Why did he appear? All that bullshit. John C. caved into one piece of bullshit from the community, and it was Black D-Hide. He just decided, hey, people are complaining. Why not? We'll take it off. And I tweeted him, and the tweet was something along the lines of, hey, why was Black D-Hide removed when it had no ill economical effect? Black D-Hide actually rose because of the GE, but it stayed stable. It's ALK value bound, so it didn't go anywhere. There was no problem with it. Let's put it that way.
How far off of the ALK value was it initially? Because if it's anything like green and stuff, they typically sit right around ALK.
At the time,
plus runes,
crafting Black D-Hide bodies was profitable pre-GE. So Zulrah bringing in more Black D-Hides wasn't a problem. The price didn't go anywhere. The price was, I think, 2,700 somewhere in there. Let's put it this way. The price stayed stable. It didn't go anywhere. GE comes out. Obviously, most skilling supplies kind of went up. Now Black D-Hides are comically high. It's impossible to train crafting with Black D-Hides. But let's put it this way. There aren't enough coming into the game if it's that much higher than ALK value. It was a ridiculous move. He caved into pressure from people tweeting at him and didn't run a poll on it. And of course, the whole nonsense of, we poll everything, but then John C. just makes this decision based on some complaints, and there was no actual ill game effect, really pisses me off. It's something I'd talk about probably twice a day on my stream. It's just, why would you do that? And I know this is old news, but it's the principle of the matter. Zulrah could have Black D-Hide.
It kind of goes right back to the Granite Mall, which was, if you guys know anything about this, John C. spearheaded that whole thing, and the G Mall worked, the way it worked for a very, very long time until John C. took over, and he decided that is not the way it should work, and thought that there were some bugs with it, and they ended up changing the G Mall around. And now, if you ever look on Reddit, about once a week, there's a very high upvoted post saying "fix the G Mall." And it's just gone. It's gone pretty much unanswered. The only thing I've seen them respond to is that John C. changed it because of a bug. But the PvP community seems to disagree that it worked perfectly fine the way before. I don't know if this has anything to do with the invincibility glitch that the Gmaul created, but I do believe they've used that as kind of a scapegoat, is that it needed to be fixed because of a bug.
As far as I know, what happened, it was if you spec'd, it could hit a nearby person instead of your theoretical target. So it was a targeting issue. I don't know if that was in multi or single combat. I don't really know, but I'd never heard of this issue before Old School. So.
No, yeah, it was never a problem until John C. came in, and then all of a sudden it was a big issue.
But yeah, basically you can't. I mean, as far as I know, it's basically completely broken. I mean, you can't effectively use it. It's no longer this fwop fwop. It's more of a fwop fwop kind of thing.
It just does it whenever it wants.
It defeats the purpose of the Gmaul. I mean, it's kind of what you want from your Gmaul. You just want that amazing stack of 4 hits or whatever you can manage with it. That's the attractiveness of making a Gmaul pure. So it's kind of sad to see that not relevant anymore.
Yeah,
Granted,
I mean, a lot of them still try to use it, but
yeah.
ask a Gmauler what they think.
Ask a Gmauler how they feel about your Jagex's decisions.
But yeah, that's just another example of something being changed without a poll because of them thinking that it needs to be, without really understanding, the consequences of what they're doing in turn with the black dehides. I think Mod Ash did something very similar one time with Arma. He changed around the way that their defensive stats or their attack, or I forget exactly what it was.
It was Chinchampas. Black Chinchampas became someone discovered, hey, if you fire a Black Chinchampa at the minion, it rolls damage off of the minion's defense on the splash damage to the surrounding targets. So basically, Black Chinchampas are really good at Armadillo because you can fight a minion and have it do damage to Kree. So it's a really quick kill, and he decided I should fix that, but obviously...
Yeah, I think, 12 hours later, it was reverted.
And he apologized, which, again, if we could have, Ash and the art team just run everything, we might have a much better relationship with Jagex, but unfortunately, John C. and, certainly the others have been guilty of it as well, tend to decide, and to be fair, we have not been perfect and fair about, we tell Jagex sometimes that, hey, just do this without a poll. So to be fair, we sometimes ask them to do things without polls, and then we get mad about when they do things with polls. There's a lot of where you kind of expect judges.
I don't think there's many people that are ever just put shit in that does.
Yeah,
that
I mean it's mostly non-game mechanic stuff.
I say
just being
put
a little
the
fair.
Space in. Give us the quality of life. That is not a quality of life update. That is something that directly affects combat, monsters, farming. Those are things that need to be polled unless it is absolutely game breaking at this point.
You ought to be judgment wise, be able to differentiate those two. But here we are, and it's interesting we talk about that because Matt K has been pretty vocal on the Reddit recently about the whole Nightmare Zone thing. And made a very I don't know if it's necessarily controversial or not. I didn't prep you for this, Keith, but it's relevant, so let's talk about it a little bit. Nightmare Zone got brought up, and the statement he made was basically we need to look at this financially, and we need to gather the data. He kind of said it knowing that people are like mod data, haha, but also we need to collect the data on this and see if truly, if we now at this point remove Nightmare Zone, would it be a problem for us financially? And also kind of admitted to being upset that they didn't take care of the issue in the first place. They let it go too far. And at that point, we're basically like, oh, well, now that it's been in the game so long, we can't really just take it out now. So good communication. It's on Reddit, though, so unless you saw that post and happened to look at the comments, you don't really know, but it's at least better than what we've gotten.
And I think it's one of the things I said last week is that instead of bullshitting us, they need to just be more honest and say what we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things we all know is that they like Nightmare Zone the way it is because there are a lot of people that make secondary accounts for the hosts, guys that play, guys that normally probably wouldn't play because they don't have time to play on a 5 to 7 day basis. They get to play on the weekends maybe, so they train their account during the day, then they're ready to go for the weekend. And these guys are probably not going to play. So we get it, Jagex. You want money. And
we get it.
Yeah, you like money.
We get it. Okay.
Stop saying you need data and just say, look, we understand there's a lot of people that have accounts because of Nightmare Zone, and we don't want to break that. Just be honest. And finally, how many months later, has said it.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to take it for what it is. And it's broken at this point. Like, it's there. It's been there. The people that have used it have abused it. Yeah. We're past this point of trying to fix it at this point. Yeah.
It is one of those things that, you know, it's very easy to point at Jagex. I mean, it's easy. It's very easy. It's not, you don't have to be smart to look at Nightmare Zone and go, it's wrong for a lot of reasons. Jagex said it wouldn't be meta for, you know, for training, the whole 6-hour nonsense. I mean, there's a lot that's going on with Nightmare Zone that's not working the way it theoretically was designed to work. So, I don't know if the excuse "it's too far gone" is a fair one, but at the very least, we're getting some communication from someone over at Jagex. So there is that. So we worked over the Jad Pet tease. Let's talk a little bit more about Cerberus. We've gotten another little picture from Alfred. It is again talking about, in the same vein as that theoretical Barrows update we could see. After killing Cerberus, for those of you who don't or might not know, Cerberus is the Hellhound boss we're getting this month from the Slayer updates, and it's basically you're gonna kill him and you'll loot a chest, which is I don't know, I like that mechanic for some reason. It feels fancy. I don't know why, but the whole
kill it's better than just picking shit up off the ground. You know, like there's that little bit of hype right before you click it. Just like with Barrows, you're like, what's it?
Yeah, you can build the hype that's less. I don't know. I like the whole chest mechanic, so that's exciting. Check out Alfred's Twitter. It's at JagexAlfred. There might not be an E. I don't even know. But Jagex Alfred, it's this little GIF he posted. It's got some cool laser fire eyes. And
now, is this the chest?
That picture should be the chest.
That's the chest that will open.
Yeah.
I would like to see an animation with this when you click on it, like it actually springs open, and then an interface or something comes up. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if they intend on just being like a Barrows chest where you just like click it and it opens. Or what, but
yeah, I don't know. I like the chest. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's much better than just kill it, shits on the ground, pick it up, teleport out. Like this is nice. I like it.
But we're almost there. How prepared are you?
I mean, I know nothing about. I don't think anyone really knows anything about mechanic-wise what we're going to need for it. I've seen some pictures on Twitter about. I think they had Arma they were using range.
Okay.
I believe so. This might be a good opportunity for the ACB to have a little bit of a return as far as usefulness, because the blowpipe might necessarily not be functional here. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
I mean, to go along with that, one of the very earliest things we know or heard about Cerberus was Ash's interest in making the Spectral Spirit Shield useful. So theoretically, best in slot could be Spectral there, which would mean that
ACB?
Crossbow, you need out single-handed. Staying at distance is not unheard of. We know that Cerberus uses all 3 attack styles, so eliminating one, or perhaps he might work like Mythril Dragons in that if you're up next to him, he only uses 2 different attacks. So maybe
we're me getting a jar for this.
Who knows? Oh, I don't know, but a jar of lava. Give it to me, please. I love the jars. Again, that's just one of those like rare untrade. I mean, they're tradable, but like this collectible kind of niche little pointless drop that is trolly at the same time, but for people like me is this interesting, cool little accomplishment. I'm sure if you know, once it comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept it hidden and someone gets it and goes, "There's another jar." Fuck. I kind of missed that. We're very clear. One of the things, and this is totally off topic, but Jagex communicating us what's coming in every update. One of the best examples someone in my chat brought up about a week ago was the first guy who made a Ring of Stone. How bummed would you be? It's the best ring in the game. Here we go. Ring of Stone. Ooh, exciting. Put it on. I'm a fucking rock. I love that mystery. I love that little aspect of kind of the little trolliness to it. These days it's kind of hard for Jagex to just kind of spring things on us and for it to be exciting. So the jars, it's all we have left maybe. But I'd love to see a jar. That'd be cool.
I genuinely think that these jars will never get a use.
Oh no, absolutely. I hope they don't. Maybe the most I'd like to see is like that one piece of furniture in like your skill hall or your quest hall that like currently holds runes. It's like that little display case. A little like, I don't know, put the jars in something like that. I don't know. But that'd be cool. I don't know. Display them some way.
Personally, this would be even more troll. But I would like to see them eventually update and be like, okay, the jars have a use. Combine them all to find out, right? You get one of each jar, you combine it, and it's now just like this mixed jar of shit.
Jar of shit.
That does nothing else.
Jar of goop.
It's literally just a combination jar. Like, that would be the best thing I think they could do with it, is just to make it even more troll at that point.
Yeah.
But we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is a mystery at this point. August is here. We're in August. It's my birthday month. That's exciting. I don't care. Fuck.
Yeah, they've said that it's going to come out at some point this month in batches.
We don't really know. Yeah.
No idea what's coming and when. I'm actually leaving for California on the 19th, so I really hope that I'm assuming it's going to come right. Yeah, right when I am able to.
Off to TwitchCon.
Do it. Yeah. No, I'm actually going.
Oh, is that TwitchCon? When is TwitchCon?
Yeah,
I have no idea. Yeah.
That may be August. I think it's in September, but yeah, I got personal family stuff I have to do in California, so I'll be gone probably right around the time it comes out. Lucky me. So.
Lucky you. Yeah, I was super worried about that. I was like, please tell me the family vacay is not in August. So
the 19th to the 23rd. So we'll see when the release is.
Yeah, I would imagine if the teasers are any indication, next week, and like what you would think a nice order of things would be, this coming Thursday, you would think Jad and the Boss Slayer maybe, and maybe some of the new rewards you can buy, the extended tasks and things of that nature.
I would like to see the revamp of the tasks.
That
first.
As well, hopefully. And I hate not being able to get Dark Beasts. It's very sad. Dark Beasts are great.
I'm getting tired of Abby Demons. Like it's
you don't even have extended, dude. You gotta.
Well, I did, but I took it off. Because of how often I
at
was
this
getting
point,
them.
I'm just stubborn about it. It's just like, I'm gonna push through it. I wanted these. I asked for this.
Back in the day, I loved them. Now it's like another Abby Demon task. It's every other task, if not every third.
Oh, they're common as hell. I like it though. It's, people on stream like to see the whole whip drop thing happen. So, I don't mind them. They're decent XP. Why not? Why not? I don't know. But yeah, it's exciting. You're not interested at all in the Jad pet, right? You're just kind of...
Yeah, well, I suck at Jad. So,
oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
After doing Zulrah and stuff, I feel like I would probably be better at Jad.
Oh, yeah.
The fight cave itself is just so boring to me. Leading up to it. If I could just go in and kill Jad, it'd be different.
That'd be great.
Having to just go through all those waves just repetitively over and over just kills my motivation for ever trying for that pet.
Yeah, it would.
Not to mention, I just don't give a shit about the pets. Like, people like Dalek Cookie, I feel bad for, the ones that are like trying so hard to get all pets.
But it's so, it's great though. I love that. It's one of those long-term challenges. I think I'm certainly pulling for her. I throw her a host every now and then when I can, but I love that challenge. She's so far along too. Like, I don't know if she has the most pets, but I love the dedication.
Now here's a question for you when this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
How many Jad kills will you do before you give up having gotten the pet? Like, what's your this is too much for me?
Well, okay, so the plan I have in place is 50 fire capes and make it a series kind of thing. But do 50 fire capes over however long. If I don't get the pet in those 50, cool. But I'll have 50 fire capes stashed in the bank, and it'll be this big event of cash in all the capes, see if you get lucky, and obviously
so you get 50 more attempts.
Yeah.
So 100 fire capes is what
100 chances
kills.
at the pet. Yeah. And I can't imagine I'll get it in those, but it'll at the very least be entertaining to watch me suffer.
It's kind of like the Myth Dragon series people do, where they get the chewed bones. Yep. You don't get enough chewed bones to hit rate typically, but
chances are,
cash them in and pray basically. Yep. You'd be like Lord Kirk and get one on your second. Chewed bone. You might get one on the very first Jad kill and just be like, okay, that was a fun series.
That's the thing. I mean, you can talk about that like the RuneScape achievement. You reach that achievement, you getting third age. You kind of hit that wall for a minute before, I just worked for months on whatever this was, and you hit that. Now what? What do I do? And I'm sure you felt that way about third age at least a little bit, because it was kind of. For more than just a little bit of time, you were just going and going for it, and you finally get it. Now what?
Yeah, and it's weird because like people would ask before, what are you going to do when you get it? And I like to think that I would continue on doing it.
Right.
But with all the things that are coming up in the future, it's not even necessarily because I got third age that I've stopped camping them specifically. It's just because I'm really excited to. This is going to be pretty much the first time that I've ever been ready for new content. Like I've never been ready for the new thing. When Elites came out, I was so far behind that by the time I even finished my first Elite, the items had dumped, they were crashed.
Oh, it was awful.
And finally, I could put some cool new content out for people to watch on par with everyone else and not be 3 months behind on everything. So that was one of the big reasons for switching over out of the clues, was to try and be with the times versus just sticking to what I had been doing for a year and a half at that point.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also, I mean, I can speak a little on that. It's fun to be part of new content in RS, especially when it's like super profitable. I mean, I certainly didn't with the Elite Clues get the skill specs treatment where he gets a couple items on first day and viewers offer him 30 mil a pop, but I certainly benefited from it because an Infinity Kit, which is now 40K, was worth, 5+ mil. So, I certainly benefited a little bit.
How many hours dry were you at Lava Dragons?
20 hours and 50 minutes of actual killing Lava Dragons until I got my first Elite. That was fun.
That was fun. Just sad after a while. I just remember
I'm here at Lava Dragons, everybody. People would come in the chat. BarrowsBOY, you still dry? Yes, thank you for reminding me.
And on 1 in 250 chance, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yeah, it's not that rare. I mean, before the Ring of Wealth, after that first initial day, I think consistently doing Lava Dragons, I could manage 2 Elites in a 5-hour stream. That was a lucky stream. Nowadays with the Ring of Wealth enchantment, it's a little better, obviously, twice as good, but it was bad. It was bad. And of course, getting PK'd during that week was much worse too.
And the area was so flooded with people. Everyone and their brother was out there trying to focus. It's still bad now, but it was infinitely worse on release, for sure.
I died last night, and I got over that shortcut that they have now because of the achievement diaries, and none of the team had the shortcut. And I've learned now that you can get back to your stuff before they make the whole run around. So I get back there and I'm just picking up loot. Picked up I don't know, lost the looting bag, but got I don't know, 150k in bones and hides. So moral victory, but still, it's still nasty out there, which is a good thing. And worth talking about something that recently came up in this poll that's quite relevant. The poll question was basically, do we remove the login screen? So you log in and you have to click to play. When hopping in the wilderness, should that screen be eliminated? And you kind of think, okay, that could be perfectly innocent, but at the same time, when they removed the world hop timer, you thought, oh, that could be, that's just nice quality of life. But now you can hop through every single world in 5-10 minutes. It's really hard for people who are, fishing dart crabs at Lava Dragons. One single PKer can make his way through the worlds before you're done a trip.
So can they, though? Because anytime I world hop more than 6 or 7 times, I have to sit there for 30 or 45 seconds.
Yeah, to be fair, they did put in the restriction thing, but it's still it's much worse than it used to be. Let's put it that way. So getting rid of that,
especially that one seems more lean towards PKers themselves because you're not hopping a lot. They are. So if they instantly see you,
absolutely, it's a big benefit to them. Yeah, there's that moment of security when if someone logs in next to you, they have to get through that little period of delay, I guess you could say, of I don't actually see anything, I can't attack anything right now because I'm clicking on this screen. If you get rid of that, they're ready in an instant. So certainly as someone who takes advantage of farming the wilderness, I definitely voted no. But also in the same vein of the world hop timer, I was a little worried that this was going to come back to bite us and, yes, this is super convenient, but here's pieces of game content that actually suffered because of it. So
yeah, and I remember the world hop timer was one specifically for me that was really painful in the beginning, doing cave horrors that
right. I've come to crash you.
Yeah, there was a group of people that just hated me, for lack of a better reason, just because they had nothing better to do.
Yep.
Would just come around, drop cannons at the cave horrors. Eventually, through talking with JMods, that was established as player harassment, and they could be reported for that. But because it's literally the intention of trying to ruin it for you. They're not trying to kill things; they would follow you. And with no world hop timer, even putting my private off.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. And 5 minutes through all the worlds.
This was before the login limit stuff too. They within 2 minutes could find my world at any time, and it was just almost impossible to do what I wanted. So it was a nice update at first to me, and then it became abused pretty heavily, and it became very annoying at one point. But
and to be fair, it's certainly we are as streamers. Not everybody goes through that experience, But there certainly were negatives, and being a streamer, most streamers can tell you player harassment and stuff like that. Being able to hop and find you that fast was a bit of an issue. It's good that they've now finally, and this is something I don't think we give Jagex enough credit for, because we're not really thinking about it. It's just kind of working the way it should. But the whole player harassment situation, they've kind of finally figured that out. They've found their place. No longer are we hearing about on the forums like, streamer got me banned because I walked into the room by accident. And like, seems like we've found a happy ground, and those people who did the things that would get them banned now understand that, oh, I'm risking my account, and they don't do them anymore. So
yeah, what do they do with rag? Like, I don't watch a lot of PKing anymore. Like, is ragging still a massive thing with crossbows the pistol bows and stuff?
It's the reason I quit PKing, so I don't know. I would assume it's much better now.
I don't hear much about it anymore. Like, there were many streamers.
I mean, part of the main issue for me was it was one guy every time, same guy, right? And I think that was the main problem. So I'm sure it's not that is certainly not an issue anymore. But I would imagine occasionally people get mad at you and still piss you off. But it can't be that one person day in and day out, which is fucking great, because there were people who literally just, that was what they did on RS.
I think that's where, like, I was talking to Matt K about this, especially with the cannoning drop, 5 people dropping a cannon. Like, the line is, are they intentionally trying to ruin the experience for another player, or is it just what they're doing happens to coincide with what you're doing? It makes it harder. Like, there's a very black and white section for this. If their intention is literally just to make your content or your experience worse or impossible, like, that is where player harassment comes in, and it's also reportable. Like, it's sad that I have to be a streamer to get any attention on it, because if I wasn't a streamer at the time, like, they would never have responded to me.
No, I mean, that's
like, it literally happened on, like, you remember when they did the RuneScape podcast, right, where they would let you on their channel and they would do all that fun stuff. It was on the RuneScape podcast with mod Paul M, and I believe there were like 2 or 3 other J mods in the stream at the time watching it happen, and no one did anything. Like, I mean, there was probably 1,000 viewers. It was like right at the beginning, and I'm messaging Paul M over on Twitter in the background saying, is this cool? Like, you guys are okay with this? Like, this guy is hopping to every world I go to, dropping cannons, and Paul's just like, I'm not at my work computer, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you can't help me, and no one else is going to. I said, here's all the codes, and I dumped the codes into the fucking chat, and I said, I'm done.
Did you really do that? Damn.
Yeah, I did.
Drop the fucking mic, just like, fuck you.
I was like, here's all the RuneScape membership codes. Take them. I'm out. Like,
that's fucking great.
They're not going to provide any support, especially on, like, the RuneScape channel.
Yeah.
To let people harass people to the point where they can't even provide content. And it didn't go over well between the community. Like, a lot of people were like, no, fuck you, Keepers. Like, what they're doing is fine. Do different content. I shouldn't have to do different content because of people making my content impossible.
Yeah.
Like, that's the line between
definitely,
and they finally established it, which is nice. For sure.
I like the stand you took. I certainly wouldn't have done that. I definitely wouldn't have had the balls. But you sent a message, which is the important part. And
it went pretty much in one ear and out the other, because I mean, I did get an email back and they said that they addressed the players and stuff, but it's just to have someone come onto your stream and say, we want you to provide content, your content to our players and make the game look good and want people to come play, and then to just let it be grieved the entire time with no support. Like, they weren't there to back me up on it. So
yeah, certainly you want to make your game look good, and if you're not prepared to, I guess, to play into their favor a little bit, they're all at that point at home. I guess, what could they have done? But you should, a little forethought, maybe consider that's a possibility. Certainly frustrating on your end, and for them, kind of probably really frustrating too, because they couldn't do anything about it. But definitely, I mean, they should have been able to.
Yeah, I mean, if they're ever, I don't think they ever intend on doing it again, but if they ever invite people onto their stream, like, they need to be there to support the people that are trying to support them as well. And they dropped the ball on it. No one was ready to provide any assistance, and they just sat there and watched it happen. flat out said, like, if they could, they would take action on it right now. They just can't do it. They weren't at the right computer to do it. So
yeah. Yes, what? I mean, it's just like I said, we've come a long way at this point. We're I don't know how we got here, but at this point we're good on player harassment. It seems like it's not as much of an issue anymore. Which fingers crossed, knock on wood. Hopefully that stays the same. But we've definitely come a long way as a community. So as much as we shit talk how people treat each other sometimes on this game, good job for to Jagex eliminating at least one aspect of.
Yeah, well, the gaming harassment is different. A lot of the things I see now are just people being assholes, talking shit, like stuff like that. Like that's gonna happen in any game, in any situation. But like at least the people that are making the game impossible to play have been addressed, which is the critical thing for sure.
Well, I think that's it for current events, folks. Let's get into your questions, and we have a lot of time this week. I've finally worked out things with SoundCloud, so we don't have any sort of time cap. So we're gonna get into some of your questions. First off, from Mr. Affleck. Oh, Affleck. Outside of streaming, what are some of the things you do for fun/entertainment? You have let's like change it around a little bit. You have a free day. You can do whatever the fuck you want. What do you for your
outside? What is this?
What do you go do? You have a full day. Where do you want to be? What are you doing?
I mean, it really just depends. Like during the summer, like
anything.
Just this past
Pick
weekend,
your time period.
I went fishing with my dad, like stuff like that. I love fishing. I used to fish like 5 days a week younger, so like that's a big deal for me. I don't get to go out nearly as much because the lake is much farther than when I used to live, but if I get the chance, I love to go fishing. And this is going to be somewhat depressing on a level, but my big enjoyment right now is watching League of Legends. Like I'm very huge into it, and when I get free time, a lot of my off-stream time, if it's not spent with Kathy, is catching up on League, LCK, LPL, NA, EU, Oceanic, like Challenger. I follow a lot of it very closely, so anytime I get free time, it's typically spent even on Twitch. Like even though I wouldn't call that outside of twitching, but it is outside of RuneScape. It's become a pretty big part of my daily routine. Yeah,
not surprising to me. I think the one thing I can't watch on Twitch anymore is after a long day on RuneScape. RuneScape stream's really hard to watch. Definitely like finding that game you're playing, that other game. Obviously for you it's League, and LCS and esports are becoming bigger and bigger. I mean, we can open up that can of worms. I don't know if you've like followed ESPN's like tiny little involvements with esports over the last couple weeks, but it's coming. It's getting there. And for those of you interested in like how that's going, I watched a video, the Game Theorists, that really cool YouTube channel. If you've never heard of it, definitely check it out. It's really cool. They go through. Sometimes they just break down the lore of games. Sometimes they talk about how certain things are working. In the esports case, it's kind of advocating for esports as why it is a real sport, and it goes through. I forget if it was the last NBA championship or one of the previous ones, but LCS pulled more concurrent viewers over its championship than the NBA Finals did, and the LCS has been out for 3 years. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Keith, but that's an impressive thing. The NBA has existed for years, decades, and LCS pulls more viewership on not a public broadcasting channel, not the TV, on an obscure website like Twitch, which you would have to know about.
Public? Like that's typically on cable, right? Like it's
ABC. Anybody who turns on their TV, who has a TV, has that channel and could watch it. Whereas Twitch, you have to know about Twitch. You have to know about the game. I mean, it's impressive that you can pull more numbers. So, esports.
I mean, but it's not surprising to me, especially because, like, maybe you specifically, when's the last time you sat down and watched a television show that wasn't like Game of Thrones or something that you follow on a regular basis?
Yeah,
like,
I don't watch
turn
TV
the TV
anymore.
on to see what's on. I haven't watched a TV show since it would have been, I guess, Walking Dead, and that's the only reason I even have cable TV at this point. So it's not surprising to me because I fall into that category of age, between this age and this age. A male that plays games, like that is my new TV for sure. But it's growing, and that's one of the big reasons I love watching League is because I've been watching it since season 2 when it wasn't nearly as big. It was much smaller back then, and to see it grow has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're gonna, I suppose if you're out there and you're gonna make the argument that it's not a sport, and like certainly I would agree it certainly doesn't fit. Maybe it's not for ESPN. ESPN acknowledges the reason that it's become a relevant issue is that ESPN did have esports on one of its channels recently. It was, I think, Dota, but maybe StarCraft even. I'm not really sure, but it has aspects of current sports now. It may not be what you acknowledge as this physical feat necessarily, but it certainly does require if you want to really get into it, high-end, hand-eye coordination, all that good stuff, all that teamwork, reactionary. I mean, there's a reason people are so interested in it. It's more accessible. It's a lot easier for someone to pick up a game of Dota, League, Smite, whatever esport it may be, Call of Duty. It's a lot easier for a lot of people to get into that and then be able to respect people and look up to the people who are really good at it and can compete on a high level. It's, you get the awe of professional sports with the, you can kind of identify with it, which is...
Yeah, and I've got this picture.
Cool.
Do you have the stream open at the moment?
I don't.
Okay, I'm going to send you this picture. I want you to check it out. I'm going to link it for everyone else as well. This is just one of the things that I love so much about watching.
Look at that. That's crazy.
League.
And those of you listening to the audio, link in the description. I will be sure to include that.
Yeah, just seeing it change over the last, 5, like this season 5 was what we're in now. I can only imagine, how it's going to progress in a few more years.
It's cool. I mean, it's really cool to see it grow. Let's be fair, I don't even give a shit about League of Legends, but that's cool. That's cool to see grow. Just fundamentally, that's an awesome thing. And it's basically a picture comparing the attendance and the venue, I suppose, of each, I guess championships. I don't know.
And then they fill half of looks like maybe a hockey arena.
Yeah.
And then
full hockey arena.
And now
crazy.
They're in a massive stadium. It's ridiculous. And that's one of the big things I love about it is that I followed it pretty much most of the entire way, and I'm excited to see where it goes at this point.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And one of the sad thing is with ESPN, we talk about esports. I was a big paintballer back in the day, and it was
I want to play paintball. I've never done it.
ESPN had this big project where they were going to try and incorporate paintball into it, and they've done a few things, but it's hard to follow paintball as a sport because
I raised my hand. I got hit.
And this is perfect for it. I think I don't know if it'll ever make it to top ESPN, but
right.
It's hard to argue that it's not a sport in my eyes. I mean, you're not physically running, but there are a lot of sports, that people would, chess is considered a sport to a lot of people. It's very
chess boxing.
Yeah, it's very it's just a whole different style of sport, and I think that gaming as a whole has the potential to really put out some serious viewership on major TV stations if they ever do it. Let's be real. Yeah. Commercializing is a massive thing. And
one of the big advocates, or I guess if you're not a fan of esports showing up on ESPN, you might just have to deal with it because financially, we're seeing big brand universal advertisers, Coke, car companies, all that stuff moving towards sponsoring esports teams, esports events. So it's becoming more mainstream than you might like. Haters. Not that, let's be fair, this is a gaming podcast, so chances are...
Probably not a lot of haters on here.
But if you're here for some reason. But, okay, so back to the original question. Me, if I had, a day off, and, what I love doing, of course, many of you know I'm big into hockey, so going to a Caps game, that's always a good time for me. But if I could go anywhere, you'd probably see me at an amusement park. Roller coasters are just a shit. What can I say?
I'm such a pussy when it comes to roller coasters and stuff like that. I've been on one, and it scared the absolute...
You're kind of close to Cedar Point, right? Have you...
No, I'm really close to a place called Kings Island. It's people have heard of it. It's a pretty big...
yeah, I've heard of it. Just a little bit.
It's I believe it has the world's... I think they shut it down because too many people kept getting hurt or died on it, but it was the Beast, or the Son of Beast, was the world's largest wooden roller coaster. And
it actually, that record, I don't know what held it before that one, but it just got beat again by another American roller coaster. Anyway.
Yeah, we just keep getting more and more ridiculous with them, and I just can't.
Oh, I fucking love it, dude.
You couldn't pay me enough anymore.
I fucking love it.
I can see why it would be fun though. I get it, but I'm just a pussy.
Yeah, I'm in that position in my life where skydiving is definitely an option, but I'm worried that it's kind of like sledding. This is like my experience. So when you're a kid and you go sledding, it's great. Then I went and rode on my first roller coaster. Sledding became worse because you've set the bar higher, right? And you got to like make some stupid high jump and hurt yourself to make sledding entertaining.
Next thing, you're going to be like skydiving from outer space.
See, that's the thing. Like if I go skydiving, you know, where's roller coaster going to be? Like, what do I do if roller coasters are no fun anymore? This is just disappointing. But yeah, that's where I'd like to be.
My dad's actually gone skydiving a lot recently, and he convinced my mom to finally go. I think.
That's cool.
He's been trying to get me to go for ages. I'm like, you can't even get me on the kiddie roller coasters. I think I'm gonna just jump out of a plane, like a perfectly good flying plane.
Why would I? This plane is flying just fine. I have no reason to leave this plane.
Eventually, I'm gonna stay in here and not leave.
But yeah, that's where I want to be.
All right, I got another question over here. It's and this is something RuneScape related that I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about because I don't follow the polls, but it says, what do you think about the poll question with Vedion? And I believe the question was to remove one of the Hellhounds.
Remove a skeletal hound, yeah. I too am not super filled in with Vedion. I know that right now there's this, I don't know if it's flinching, I don't know if it's safe spotting, there's some method that makes it cheesy. And so I think Vedion has always been much too hard. Let's put it that way. The Ring of the Gods is not that useful. It's kind of just expensive because Vedion is not that easy to kill. People don't really understand it completely. So making it easier and then fixing the glitch, maybe that's a step in the right direction. But as far as I know, right now,
they recently fixed a safe spot, but I guess there's either another one out there because I saw something on Dalek Cookie, her highlights, that there's definitely something that people to manipulate it a little bit.
There's a tree. I know you can flinch it. There's a tree close to the lava dragons where you can flinch it and you can pull the hounds, but even then that makes the kill really long and might potentially still be, you know, balanced, so to say.
One of the things that I don't get is that these safe spots last for so long. Like if you guys remember the Venonitis safe spot.
Yep.
It was very early on. It was fixed pretty quickly. Like it wasn't out more probably than a week or two. Was fixed, but the Vedion one has been out for a long ass time. And they didn't pull it. They just fixed it, which is, you know, a sign that it wasn't doing, you know, it wasn't intentional, that they didn't want it to be that way. Yet it lasted for so long, and it was one that was streamed regularly. Like there's no secret among the community. I'm curious why some of these are removed so quickly, and then some of them just last forever.
Well, it's interesting about the wildy bosses. The only reason it's so, I guess, so relevant with them is because they're out in this big, wide, open area. There's no tiny boss area. Venonitis was actually supposed to have a cave, but then I think time ran out. Alfred has the design. He's tweeted it out before. He was supposed to be in a cave, and that's where you like did the duty of killing the spider. But now it's this weird, complicated, bring it into multi-combat, bring it off the web. It's a weird mechanic. I don't even fully understand it, but those wildy bosses, they may have been rushed a little bit. I don't know. Something's kind of missing from them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it really came out during that time where Wilderness was just dead. Like there was nothing going on, and I think they just tried to flood it with as many things as they could to put content all over the place, and maybe didn't necessarily plan. Like I laugh when I say this because they know it's going to happen. They don't plan for people to try and abuse things, and like they don't. Clearly, QA has been a pretty.
We have another though.
yeah, but yet they're still like asking us questions that could be borderline confusing as to why they're doing it. Things like Deadman. Like, and I'm going to get probably you might disagree with me on this, but with Deadman, they're asking what are some potential problems that you think are going to come up with Deadman, i.e., like. If you get Herb Lore and you level it up and then get killed, go down to 1, you won't be able to do it. Like they're asking us these questions. That is QA. Like that is like the definition of a QA like, is supposed to find things before release of content and fix potential problems. But they're relying on us now, and that just is a sign to me that their QA doesn't have the ability to test everything, which is scary because they're relying on players to fix their bugs now before they release content, and we're only going to tell them so much, you know.
Well, yeah, obviously, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like, if I think of something genius, like I don't know that I would necessarily tell them. Yeah, because this could be beneficial.
I could be the best dead man ever, and I'm not going to tell you how.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's always,
I think that QA definitely. I don't know how they do it there. I mean, I've worked in QA, but in a very different scenario as far as manufacturing goes. But like, you would never rely on your customers to tell you what potential problems you're going to have with your product. Like,
right.
That is why you are QA. Like,
yeah,
so.
I would love to know, like, scale wise, if we looked at a gaming company who's producing similar content size wise to Old School, maybe to a similar audience. What is the scale of the QA team? How big is the QA team at, Blizzard? At, obviously that's a big step up, but we got 2 people. We've had one for a while. Now we have 2.
Yeah, and one of them spends half the day on Twitter and stuff. So like, how much time is he really committing?
How much time does John C. really spend doing his job?
And not to mention, like, when you update something like Zia, like, he's not going to be able to go through Zia and test everything. And 2 people, you would need a team of 15, 20 people to go through that content in preparation over months. Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and it's scary, like, to think that Deadman is going to be out with, they said, October, which is surprising to me. I'm gonna anyone remember, they said Deadman will not be released until they've resolved internet issues, connection issues. Does that mean they fixed it? Does that mean that they have a foolproof plan that not saying that we'll never be attacked, but that they have a plan to get these things under control by October? Like, that's not a long time, and things have been better. But I think the indication that we got from the tournament was that the game is not perfect. And although they weren't attacking the game, like, they didn't have to. All they had to do was attack the Twitch. If they needed to, I'm sure they would have attacked the game itself. But and those were specifically given, hidden IPs for the worlds and stuff. Like, these are going to be open worlds. Like, these won't be hidden like that. So I feel like that they kind of did the whole, we'll say one thing to appease you and then hope you forget. Because
we don't have save files of our game. Flash forward. Well, we've found a flash drive, RuneScape 2007.
We'll see. I have this creeping suspicion that Deadman's going to be released and the servers will be attacked like insanely hard on release, and to try and prove a point that they did not keep true to their word, that they weren't ready, and we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we'll talk about it on the podcast.
That will make an excellent podcast.
It really will.
The week after Deadman, because dude, Reddit is going to be just a cesspool of information for us to talk about.
Jagex is like the George Bush to our Jon Stewart, in some ways. But that'd be. But speaking of Zaya, really quickly, Zaya's kind of become this. I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but Zaya's kind of like it's almost in limbo right now, where, well, Reach is gone. He was kind of the front man. Does the community still want Zaya? Look at all this work that Ghost has done. We're in this interesting little... basically, they're going to repoll it, it looks like.
I wish they would stop saying they've already done so much work. That doesn't mean anything.
That also,
because they've committed time to something does not mean they should force an update. Like, that needs to stop. Like, they've pressed that issue so many times when it comes to Zia that stop telling us how much time invested in it, because to me as a player, that doesn't mean shit. Like, you could have spent the last 3 years working on it. If it's not going to be good content and it's going to be buggy, that time is for nothing. Like, you wasted your time. I'm sorry. Like, blame Reach, Like, that's not our problem. And in all honesty, I think it should be polled again to see, not necessarily like, if it hits 75%, we'll do it, but get a gauge, because it could literally go 90%. People say, stop wasting your time, give us quality of life, fix things like Zulrah, fix things like splashing, fix things like Nightmare Zone, focus on the things that deserve the attention, and whoever is going to be working on Zaya, put their attention somewhere else. We don't need that massive of an update. Like, just like Mod Mark said, and I love this video. I'm going to find it. I'll send it to you later. Mod Mark specifically said in a video, I think this was back early in the year, like in January, that one of the big things about RS3 they finally realized a while back was, instead of pumping out the new shinies, the new big updates as fast as possible, they want to start working on things that are just fixing current broken mechanics. And they finally realized that as a company, that it's not always necessarily about putting out big, massive, cool things. fixing the game that is broken at hand is more important, and I've yet to see them really hold true to that on Old School. Like I don't know anything about RX3. I don't know if they've actually gone back to that or they've tried working on things, but he said it and he nailed it. Like
yeah.
We don't need the next big thing right now. We need to fix all the little problems, or else the game's just going to have the next big problem.
Yeah, you fix something that's been in the game a while that you technically are just making new content if you can make something relevant, and that's a win-win. It's theoretically less work on their end, and you fix a lot of it. It's great, you know. But too often that like magnetism of new stuff, it's just kind of.
Very appealing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, woo, it could be so great, and then it comes out, and we're always like, disappointed.
Here's a topic I just actually pulled up on the Reddit, and this is something I've been a big advocate for, but I don't know enough on the back end to know if it's even possible. But putting RuneScape on Steam as a free-to-play game, they have the ability to market it as free-to-play. God, I just feel like that would be massive.
Yeah, it was a big topic when Old School first came around. I think it hasn't peaked up in a while, because I think one of the last times that it came up, it kind of got shut down big time because of just like financially, that 30% if they were to like do membership through Steam. I don't know if Steam can do that, you know, but Valve does take a pretty hefty share of whatever's being purchased. So I think in terms of Jagex's end, I think it's pretty unappealing, and I don't know how Valve would feel about a free-to-play game with the advertisement of go somewhere else and play and pay them. You know, I don't know if Valve would be super okay with that on their platform. So it would
now
certainly...
even a free-to-play. How does the 30% work on a free-to-play game? Is there just
I don't know. I don't know the whole mechanics. It's almost like how TV works. I don't quite understand how TV works. I don't get who gets the money, but it's one of those things that if it's a free-to-play game, okay, we're using your platform. Do you have to pay to have your game put on Steam? I don't think so, but if you do, how much is that? Is Jagex worth? It would certainly be a top free-to-play game, and, you know, Miniclip is what got RuneScape into a lot of people's eyes in the first place. So it's certainly something worth considering, but I don't remember exactly what was said, but I think Matt K shut it down, and I think we're just seeing kind of a recurrence of, hey, I wasn't there for that. Maybe this would be a good idea, so I don't really know. But yeah, I think that will be it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Do remember, if you tweet us #ConnectionLostPodcast, you can ask us questions. Give us your feedback. We're always up for some feedback. This is still a very young project. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we will be having a guest this week. Thank you, Pictures of Mod Ash, for joining us. It's very nice of you to make time out of your busy schedule.
Mod elbows.
But for Keith and I, that is going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching at home. I hope you have a fantastic week. We will see you next Thursday. See you later. Woo! And let's play the outro because we can.